If you don't really pay attention, you wouldn't notice that the west side is hill.
Pluto just love the streets. I ain't gonna lie. Love the streets.
On September 28th, 2019, Pluto two times, a young man with a bad reputation and untapped musical talent, woke up like any other day in Chicago. But by sunset, he would be gone. The west side of Chicago, a place steeped in gang rivalries and generational conflict, was home to Pluto. For outsiders, it was a war zone, a place to avoid. But for Pluto two times, whose real name was Derek Burns, it was a familiar, almost routine. That morning, there was no sign that this day would be his last. He was out on the streets, navigating the avenues he knew so well. Unlike most days, Pluto wasn't surrounded by his usual group of friends or fellow gang members. He wasn't guarded or protected. Instead, he spent his final hours driving through the city with just one passenger, a woman whose name has never been released. By the afternoon, the air felt heavy. Chicago's streets are unpredictable, and for some like Pluto, whose name carried weight and whose enemies had been watching, vulnerability was a rare, fleeting thing. Rumors swirled that rival gangs were tracking his movements, waiting for the right moment to strike. On this day, they found it. It happened just after 4 p.m. on Chicago's west side. Pluto left a barbershop after getting a lineup, driving through the 700 block of North Cicero Avenue. The streets were quiet, but for Pluto, there was always an edge of danger. His reputation had turned him into a target. Unbeknownst to him, someone had been tracking his movements, waiting for the right opportunity to strike. The ambush happened in seconds. Another vehicle pulled up alongside Pluto's car. Before he could react, gunfire erupted, shattering the window and ripping through the body of the car. The barrage was relentless. Pluto was hit multiple times, a terminal shot striking him in the head. His passenger, though injured, survived the attack. The shooter sped off, disappearing into the maze of streets that had seen this story play out time and time again. The woman beside him, though injured, survived the chaos. Witnesses would later describe the chilling speed of the ambush, the white sedan speeding away, leaving Pluto slumped in the driver's seat. When emergency services arrived, they found the car riddled with bullet holes. The street, once alive with movement, fell quiet as news of the shooting spread. Pluto two times, just 24 years old, was pronounced deceased at the scene. Word of his passing moved quickly. For those who knew Pluto, whether through his feared reputation in Chicago's gang scene or his raw, emotional music, this was a moment of disbelief. Friends, rivals, and fans alike began to ask the same question: who was behind the shooting and what brought Pluto to this moment? For Derek Burns, known later as Pluto two times, childhood was defined by struggle. The streets around him offered little hope, just survival. Opportunities were scarce and danger lurked on every corner. A consistent reminder of the unforgiving nature of the city. Growing up in a family with limited means, he witnessed the harsh realities of his environment early on. For many kids on the west side, the streets offered a dangerous allure, a sense of power, belonging, and survival in a world that gave them little else. Pluto was no exception. At a young age, he was exposed to gang culture, a world where loyalty was earned through the streets, and respect often came at a terminal cost. By his teenage years, Pluto had found his place within Ghost Mob, a notorious group also known as T&G or 4900. Ghost Mob operated in the shadows of Chicago, known for its reputation as a dangerous and violent crew. Pluto quickly rose through the ranks. He became a figure to be feared, gaining recognition as a sharpshooter and an enforcer for the gang. His name began to spread across the west side, a reputation built on ruthless decisions and unwavering loyalty to Ghost Mob. For Pluto, this life was survival. Respect came at a cost, and he paid it every day. At 15 years old, Pluto two times made a choice that would set the tone for the rest of his life. It happened near Augusta and LeClaire on Chicago's west side, not far from the street he called home. That day, Pluto and his friend William Davis came across Antonio Baker, a 43-year-old man quietly smoldering a cigarette. What started as a simple request for for a cigarette quickly escalated. Words turned to an attack. Pluto struck Baker first, and Williams joined in. The two teenagers punched and kicked the older man. The assault was witnessed by a passerby who tried to intervene. In the chaos, Pluto picked up a large speaker and dropped it on Baker's head. When paramedics arrived, they rushed Baker to the hospital. It was too late. He passed away shortly after the attack. For Pluto and William, the consequences were immediate. They were arrested, charged, and faced as an adult in court. Their bond was set at $500,000, but in an unexpected twist, Baker's cause of demise was later determined to be an asthma attack triggered during the assault, not the beating itself. This single technicality changed everything. The charges were dropped, and Pluto walked free, narrowly escaping years of incarceration. For some, it was a stroke of luck. For others, it was a warning sign of what was to come. In the years that followed, Pluto's reputation on the street grew darker. Feuds escalated between his crew, Ghost Mob, and rival gangs. One of Pluto's most personal losses, a friend named Sequan, was one of the main catalysts for revenge, especially after his ops took the opportunity to mock his passing. On Facebook, Pluto took on Sequan's name as a tribute. Retaliation became a cycle, and Pluto was often at the center of it. One incident that cemented his reputation involved the passing of a rival gang member known as Sosa. Sosa was sitting in a parked car one night when two men approached and opened fire, hitting him instantly. Days after the hit, Pluto took to social media. Instead of silence or grief, he mocked his rival. The streets of Chicago took notice. Pluto wasn't just another gang member. He was becoming a target. After years immersed in gang conflicts and street retaliations, Pluto two times sought a new direction: music. He began channeling his experiences into rap, using his lyrics to narrate the stark realities of life on Chicago's West Side.
I pray I don't go out like teeth. In a jogging suit, bitch, rest in peace.
Music became his outlet, a form of expression that allowed him to process his struggles and share his stories with others who might understand. In 2019, Pluto released the mixtape Legend, Dead or Alive, featuring tracks like Married to the Game and Nightmare.
You ride for him, y'all get buried the same. Lost a couple niggas, it would never happen again. Cause when I posted, best believe I got that strap in my pants.
These songs resonated with listeners for their raw and unfiltered depiction of his life. His lyrics painted vivid pictures of the hardships he faced, the choices he made, and the environment that shaped him. Through his music, Pluto offered a glimpse into a world many knew existed, but few truly understood. As Pluto two times' reputation spread, feuds from the streets followed. By his late teens and early 20s, Pluto's name carried weight in Chicago's gang conflicts. He became tied to a series of violent incidents, though police could never gather enough evidence to charge him. One of the most chilling events was the passing of a teenager, Juan Drake, known on the streets as Too Hot. In September 2018, he was walking through Chicago's Austin neighborhood when a green SUV pulled up alongside him. Gunshots rang out, hitting Too Hot in the chest and shoulder. He was rushed to Stroger Hospital, but he didn't survive. Days later, Pluto two times turned to Instagram, posting a comment that shocked those who read it. Too Hot pants were too tight. That's why I chased him down. He fell. LOL. Many saw it as a taunt or even an admission of guilt. It fueled speculation that Pluto had been involved. Though no charges were ever filed, he was far from the last body attributed to Pluto two times. These incidents strengthened Pluto's notoriety, but they also made him a target. Avoiding police charges didn't mean avoiding danger.
You know, fought multiple charges, incarcerated, beat multiple. Like, and when you in those type of situations and under those circumstances, you really be institutionalized even when you out of jail.
Rival gangs were intimidated by him. His actions, both real and alleged, had left a trail of destruction that others were determined to repay. Following his implication in 2 hits and a slew of other charges within a short span, Pluto entered a tumultuous period marked by retaliation, loss, and paranoia.
So now, the old guys, even myself, I'm like, shit, shorty, gotta play it smart. We might as well call 12, put 12 on our side. You feel me? So call 12, tell them it's a whole bunch of people with guns at this address right down the street. Not on their side where they at or on our side, but down the street, just on the block. Call the police, tell them we out here. It's a whole bunch of people out here with guns and shit.
Over the next 3 months, from April 20th, 2019 to July 8th, 2019, he suffered from the passing of 8 friends, 4 of whom were particularly close. His Facebook page, akin to a personal diary, reflected the profound changes he underwent during this time. With each loss, he appeared increasingly desensitized to the pain, his heart growing empty and consumed by a singular desire: revenge. He even admitted to losing his sanity during this time. Ultimately, these events set the stage for his actions. By this point, Pluto was living with a target on his back. The streets he knew so well were closing in on him, and his enemies were waiting for the right moment to strike. After his passing, reactions were divided. Some mourned his passing, recalling Pluto as a friend, an artist, and a voice to the unheard. Others pointed to his reputation, calling it a grim consequence of the choices he had made. Chilling commentary emerged about his life and passing, with speculation about how many lives Pluto had taken before his own was cut short.
He could have been a target, because I was told that the ops hated him. You hear what I'm saying? I was told that the ops didn't like this dude. Now, like I say, I don't want to portray him as a bad guy, because he probably is a good guy. He probably just one of those dudes who people love putting his bed on the internet. You know, this might be a good dude, but nobody wants to upload that footage.
For some, his passing was seen as inevitable, the final chapter of a life. To others, it was a loss of potential. Pluto had shown glimpses of talent, using music to reflect his struggle and tell his story. His tracks resonated with fans who understood his pain, his loyalty, and his ambition to escape the streets. As of now, the individuals responsible for the passing of Pluto 2 times have not been publicly identified or apprehended. The case remains unsolved, with no official reports indicating that suspects have been named or brought to justice. Rest in peace, Pluto 2 times.